E te iwi tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everybody, Che Wilson here from Che's channel, Te Pai Pai Waho. E mihi atu ana kia koutou I roto I tēnei pō. Just to open us up, mindful it's been a while, but I'll open us up with a karakia and then we'll get straight into things. Wakararau rarau maari re, ki runga ki tēnei pā, ki runga ki tēnei uinga. Kia tupu, kia rea, kia ui, kia ono, kia puta ki wao, ki te wai au, ki te amarama. Turuturo, iti o ka maua kia tīna, ui e, tai ki e kia tātou. Kia ora tātou katoa. So as I said, Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho, connecting to you tonight through a range of platforms. And just want to mihi to everybody. It's been a while. It's been 2 weeks since I had a fortnight off. The first Tuesday was due to me being out of range, and then the next Tuesday was at a tangi. So yeah, missed out on connecting with everybody, but good to be back now. The last time I spoke, we'd started season 5, and we're going to be focusing in on Māori organisation, how we organise ourselves, and how we collectivise ourselves, and going through a series of episodes. I thought I'll just have a break on that and get back into that next week as I do a general overview and catch up. But first, e me kaua tu ana kia koutou o tira tātou katoa. Me te tangi atu ki ngā mate I roto I ngā wiki kua I pātu nei. E te rangatira e Parametric, tēnā koe, e koro, Joe Mason, e moi, tatu mai kia koe e koro e ki. Ko koe te o ngā pau o te ui āranga I roto I ngā tau, aere atu rā koutou. Tatu atu kia koe te waene e te tau, esta e moi. Koutou kia koutou, tātou kia tātou. Thought it was important to acknowledge some mate since I was last online. We had Parametric pass away, an amazing artist. My aunt and dear friend, sister in arms, Esther Tinito, Dr. Joe Mason, and Koro Kihi Ngātai, and Katai atu kia koe e koro apopo. And wanted to acknowledge them because they've all given amazing contributions to the iwi and to Te Ao Māori. So what am I talking about tonight? It's a general catch-up. And what I thought I'd do is just cover a few things, in particular how you engage with the rangatahi, connecting to sacred and significant sites, and then also celebrating key events. And the fourth one is some of the beauty that you get from being at a tangihanga. So how you engage with rangatahi. 2 weeks ago, I was at the Raukotahi Summit, which is the annual Wanganui Nui Tonu Rangatahi Summit. We only had room for 60 this year, and it was really good. I think there might have been 10 people who have been on it before, and the rest were all new. So it was really good to see and meet a whole range of new faces. And what I always love about the Rangatahi Summit is that what we do is we teach them about who they are, and we do it in a really fun way. And at the end of each night, there'll be a quiz, and because they were put into groups to do work, those quizzes add up to points by the end of the week to see who wins. And so we share kōrero throughout the few days that we're together. And what I also love about it is that we mainly, it's all run by rangatahi. I'm an add-on, or the few of us older ones add-ons, but it's all run by rangatahi. And then those that might turn 18, they'll also get a chance to come in and be a mentor through the kaupapa as well. and they'll be tag teaming with an older person who's still rangatahi. And what it does is it just builds a really good cohesive unit. The other thing that we do is we do a lot of activities outside, going to wāhi tūpuna, to wāhi tapu, and teaching our kids how to go to these special places in a formal way, and how to connect and how to say hello to those wāhi tapu, those wāhi tūpuna, and to our tūpuna e moe ni te pō. And what I really like about it is that even if it's raining, we'll still go out. And we do that so that we make the most of our time together, and we don't let the weather dictate us unless it's terrible. And if the weather's terrible, then we'll adjust and might go and play basketball or the pools or whatever else. So I just wanted to cover that because everybody during the school holidays is usually doing something with their rangatahi. And some years we'll go skiing, other years we'll go mountain biking. And we prepare the rangatahi so that they've got some kōrero about where they're going before they actually go there. And it just helps to grow a consciousness with them, because they're really competitive, so they want to learn and they want to get points each night. And so you make the learning fun and you have a bit of competition, which is always healthy. In addition, a couple of other things that I've done in the last 2 weeks. Got these tuahu back home and took some of our kaumātua to these places. Some of them have been recently found, and some of the nieces and nephews that I've been working with, was their first time with the kaumātua, and just that interaction where I got the young ones to, after we'd done all of the ceremony, then got the young ones to share the kōrero and show the different toka, etc., to their kuia and their koroeke. And the interaction that they had was pretty amazing. Seeing the young ones show their tūpuna, anei, here's this, here's that, here's all of these different things, was amazing to see, but also the amount of kōrero that flowed out of the olds was pretty beautiful, and a lot more than I was used to hearing them share. So I learned something for myself. When you have their mokopuna taking them along, they share even more. So that's a tip perhaps for people who are rediscovering different places, because the beauty in it is that not just reviving the kōrero from either research or rediscovery or joining dots through waiata, etc., but then seeing the young ones help the olds, then guide them to the different spots, and then the olds being overjoyed by that, and then just sharing so much, which was a really positive thing to witness. And then on the weekend, my third point is we had the Whiti Ora Puanga celebration dinner, which was the 50th anniversary for Aotearoa Wanganui Corporation. And we only had a limited number, a few hundred people at the hui, and it was just stunning to see all of our old people dressed up, stunning to celebrate a really positive kaupapa. It was supposed to be done last year, but we did it this year, and even though there's a fair few thousand shareholders, it's really good to celebrate the 50th with our old people. The final thing that I want to talk to, and I'll cover a bit about it, is tangihanga, and in particular the beauty of tangihanga. I acknowledge the 4 people that have passed recently, and one of them was really close to me. And so when you have to sit on the pai during a tangi, You get to experience some amazing things. And some of the beautiful things I experienced was one, the kōrero. The kōrero that was laid down at this particular tangi was just stunning. And one thing I'm mindful of is if you understand the language, you're then able to engage in a tangihanga in a completely different way to if you don't. If you've only got little bits of the reo, you'll be able to pick up bits. But the more reo you have, the more you can engage. And as people lay down their kōrero on the marae, it can also help you grieve, help you shed the tears, shed the mamai, and go through that process of tangihanga. And as I said, the kōrero was stunning and quite varied, different styles. And there was one person from here in Waikato who gave a lovely kōrero, really beautiful, simple, but the images that were created in the simplicity of the delivery was just stunning. And when you hear kōrero laid down on the marae in such a beautiful and eloquent way, what it does is it helps you to process, it helps you to remember connections that you might have with the loved one that's passed. But then some other things that I witnessed, which were really lovely too. And there were 2 points. One was a woman who came on and she did a very long kōrero. And that was her poroporoaki, her wakatangitangi o Apakura to the two Pāpaku. And hadn't seen that for a long time. And it was reminiscent of kōrero that I've heard and just stunning to hear. And the other point, the other one that I heard, in Whanganui, the manuhiri speak first. So you come onto the marae and then you sit down. Manuhiri speak first, and people get quite confused. And the reason why manuhiri speak first, I've covered this on a number of episodes in the past, but the reason why manuhiri speak first is because the mate has sent out the call for people to come. And so our belief is we give the honour to the manuhiri to respond to the call of the two Pāpaku, of the deceased. And in responding to them, straight over to the manuhiri, and then we finish where the mauri gets returned back to us. And one gentleman who came on to the marae, he came on, he knew the tikanga, and he came on by himself. He did a ngere as he came on, and then straight after his ngere, he didn't go and sit down, he just kept standing and he started to talk. And after a couple of sentences, you realise, he started his high kōrero, and then you sit down. But what I loved about that short moment was because he knew his tikanga, he knew our tikanga, he was able to just go straight into things and lay the kōrero down to the two Pāpaku, to the deceased. And in doing that, was able to have a really intimate moment with the deceased because nobody else was there. You could see him, he was so fixed on sharing his aroha, laying the kōrero down, and it was just stunning. Once he had finished that, then turned to us, did the kōrero, stood up to respond, to welcome him. And as I stood up to respond, to welcome him, some kuia came on, local kuia, and they just sat on the front seat with him. Later on, my nieces, they come up to me and go, "Uncle, why didn't you tell those nanas to go and sit at the back?" And I said, "Well, why?" They said, "Well, they should be in the back row." They shouldn't be in the front row. And I said, well, there's a couple of reasons why I didn't do it. One, they're queer, and I know how old those queer are. They're both in their 80s, and they're struggling. So to get them to get up again and move, I wasn't going to do that to them. But also, the man who was sitting on that front seat as well, he stood up and went to hongi them, and then he patted the chair. And for me, if my manuhiri is comfortable with it, then I was comfortable with it. And this is controversial because some people don't like breaking rules. But what I reminded my nieces of is that before the 1980s, it was more common that women sat in the front seats. This men in the front and women in the back is a modern, it's only probably 40, 50 years old. And there was a whole process where our kuia gave it over to us. And so over time, we've put in kōrero to ensure that the reasoning behind it has legacy to it and has kōrero to it. But prior to the 1980s, it was common for queer to sit in the front, for queer to then go and shake hands first, and they gifted it to the men to sit in the front and to go and haridu first, simply because even in a hui ora, they took a very long time and would cry just as long as they would cry at a tangihanga. And so that was a gift from the queer, or from the wahine, to us men. And so that was part of my explanation to my nieces, who I love because they will see something and they'll ask why, or they'll see something and not like it, and then they'll put a challenge out, which is beautiful. Sometimes it hurts, but it's still beautiful that they're comfortable enough to be able to do that to their uncles, even if sometimes it's publicly inappropriate and stuff that we should probably do when it's just us. Hoi anō. Just wanted to share, and as we get back into things, rather than jumping straight into the kaupapa around how Māori organise ourselves and how we collectivise ourselves. So I'll get back into episode 2 of that next week, back in the world of Wi-Fi, and mihi atu ana kia koutou, o te rā ki tātou katoa, i roto i tēnei pō, kia wakaere ake ngā kupu ki te tā nui, orangi nui atu nei, au me ui e, tā ki e, pō Māori re.